And really the only person at my wedding that wasn't on my side of the wedding, it was only family and
Mhm.
my whacker rep. So
That's awesome.
yeah. And we went to his wedding and all that. And so we have a really good family relationship with that company. So we enjoy, again, focusing on, we carry a lot of products, but if you look at our product line, each specific category, I'm going to be very just basic here and just say they're all the same color. Very
Mhm.
rarely do we have, you see one category of equipment and we'll have three different brands. Very rarely will we have that.
Welcome to the Landscape Cafe and part 3 in this series.
So I have to ask, what does something like that cost?
Uh, I don't want to say exactly because I can't remember off the top of my head, so I don't know how many people are listening to this. We'll call
No,
it
right? Ballpark.
mid to upper 30s.
Mid to upper 30s. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
But
so
I mean,
$35,000 to $40,000.
that's a pretty cool machine, and especially if you're doing very big, high dollar buildings like that,
Yeah,
filters. I mean,
yeah.
that's so worth it.
Only a small percentage of my clients would use that. That's why we wouldn't have it in our rental fleet, but it is something we would sell, and
That
we'd
is
order it in for a customer. So there's a lot of stuff we sell that we don't generally use because only a small percentage of jobs would use them. But,
right.
We can always, leverage our access to equipment to bring in some more obscure pieces for specialty work.
That is so cool. Now, what brand makes that and sells that?
That's a whacker.
That's why I feel like you guys have a really a close relationship with them. Is that your number one company that you work with as far as equipment?
Yeah. So Whacker is a little background. They essentially, I think, I don't want to be called out for this one, but I think they pretty much say they invented the compactor and the rammer like a million years ago. And they're a German company, and they've been around for a long time. And they specialize mainly for a long time in that compactor, pump, trowel, like small engine, high quality, small generators, light towers, but not really in the bigger equipment side. Until the early 2000s, they bought a couple companies in Europe that have been making excavators and skid steers and everything for a long time. And so they started bringing their excavators over here in, I think, like 2006, 2007. I could have these dates wrong, but it's close enough. And my dad was one of the first companies to actually be one of their dealers in the United States. And because he's known the company so long, he's known the people that have worked there for so long. My wife and I actually got engaged at a trip that they had us on when we were over in Austria, going to the factories and going to the show. So we got engaged while we were over there. And really the only person at my wedding that wasn't, on my side of the wedding, it was only family and my whacker rep. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And we went to his wedding and all that. And so we have a really good family relationship with that company. So we enjoy, again, focusing on, we carry a lot of products, but if you look at our product line, each specific category, I'm going to be very just basic here and just say they're all the same color. Very rarely do we have, you see one category of equipment and we'll have three different brands. Very rarely will we have that. We have some that overlap, but generally if it's compactor, it's always going to be yellow. It's going to be whacker. If we have an excavator, it's always going to be yellow. It's going to be whacker. If we have a lift, it's generally going to be blue. It's going to be a genie. Now towables, we do mix into bill jacks and stuff, but we do have genies. If you want to get a saw, it's going to be a steel. So we really try to only focus on having those good relationships with a few companies to try to then leverage that for better service and better, back end support, instead of just taking whatever's in the back of a sales guy's truck that they're going to give us a deal on, because in the long run, that's not generally going to work out. So whacker tends to be a little bit more expensive, comparatively speaking, to everybody else. They're a top tier price brand, but cost of ownership is much lower, which then in turn for us over lifetime of a machine, dollar for dollar, they end up actually costing less than the cheaper machines and having a higher resale value. But they're a really good family company to work with. I got a guy up there for training right now. We're always flying people up there for training.
you'll fly them up to, where is it again?
So their U.S. facility is in Wisconsin. So
Awesome.
we'll go up to that's in Milwaukee, well, Menominee. So like a few weeks ago, I was up there with one of my mechanics. Last week, one of my mechanics is up, and this week, one of my mechanics is up. So
Holy cow.
Yeah, so they'll usually fly. Our full-time mechanics usually will fly once or twice a year.
That is awesome to get continued ed on all the new equipment that comes out. That's so cool. So you guys invest in a lot in continued education, because taking somebody flying and then putting them up for a few days or however long they're there, that's not cheap.
It's really expensive right now.
Especially right now. It's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, but it's worth it. It's worthwhile. Right. It really is one of those things where, pay, there's more to it than that. There's education, there's pay, there's vacation time, there's insurance we provide, there's all these different facets of things we do to try to create a full, we'll call it compensation package. But it also, at the end of the day, if our people are trained, it's going to help us and it's going to help our customers better. Then not only is just one person train us up, but there's a lot of cross training, so that if one person's on, if so-and-so's on vacation for a week, that, now we can't not work on anything because that person's gone. We do a lot of cross training to keep that flow of the business going.
That is awesome. What do you think the most challenging thing, since you guys have been in business, faced is, whether it's equipment shortages or employee issues, just overall in your business? What would you say it was?
I would have to say the biggest difficulty for the business, and I wasn't really involved in the business then, but I saw it in my family, was the downturn in 07, 08. The business dropped 80% and stayed down for a long time. There's that. I saw, and I'm knocking on wood that, I hope that's all I really ever see that deep, but we saw a little bit of that again when they shut everything down for COVID. I mean, we dropped tremendously overnight business wise, and we didn't really know what to do. There was no playbook for that. I hate even talking about COVID. I don't even want to deal with it, but it is one of those things. I'm so over it nowadays. And not to say that I've had it. It sucks. And I don't want anybody to have it, but it's one of those things where I'd like to move on, but it was a difficult time. We didn't know what to do. You had one company, it's like, oh, we're shutting down, we're not gonna be open at all. We have employees that we have to pay. A lot of people said, oh, we're just gonna shut down. Sorry, but we don't do that. I hate even saying, oh, our business is our family, because I feel that's kind of a cop out sometimes. But it is in this situation. We wanted to figure out how we could keep people safe, how we could still somehow bring in revenue, and how we could still pay employees. And, there was word that if one person got sick, they would shut down the whole company. There was, another multinational rental company we are right near. When one person got sick, the whole store had to close for like 4 days. Wow. And, you can't do that. So we split our whole company into two groups of people, A team and B team. Actually, I think it was orange and blue team. It was an orange and blue team. Go Gators. Basically, what was it? How did we do this? I think we worked 2 days on, 1 day off, or 1 day off. If you worked 1 week, you worked 2 days on, 1 week off, and the next week you would work 2 days off, one day on. It just rotated, and then you get a Saturday. And so, but we were paying, I think, like close to 36. 32 or 36. We're still paying over what people were working, because we wanted to still create income, for our employees. And luckily we were at a point before this happened where business was cranking away and we had the ability to be able to do that. But it was one of those things where it's like that is not, it's not sustainable.
Right. Not sustainable at all.
We don't have the, the huge depth of, bank accounts like some of these big companies do, but really a lot of the big companies, they just fired everybody. I have a family friend who I'm close with that worked in the hospitality industry, and everybody got pink slips, So I think what we did was the right thing. And I think that was, so far business wise, that's the toughest thing I've had to deal with, is just figuring out what we got to do to create income, to create a place to work for our employees, to serve them and to serve us and to serve the community, and be fair to everyone. Obviously, it's a business, so we're here at the end of the day to partially make money, but also we're here to provide a place to work. And yeah, that was a big one, and navigating out of that, which then turned into the supply chain issue of getting equipment. And luckily we did not sell much equipment during COVID. Right at the beginning of COVID, auctions were very cheap to get equipment at, and there's some rental companies that went out of business at the beginning of COVID because they were so over leveraged with debt, and then went into basically a shutdown, where we were able to then turn around and work with banks and buy some of that equipment, relatively new equipment that payments were not being made on. And we were actually able to grow our fleet in that year after the beginning, that first year of it, where pricing on equipment was historically low, which is good, because the year after that, pricing on equipment is historically high. And it has stayed high. It's starting to come down. I read a report yesterday that a lot of the auctions are going down, which is good. We're not going to see a huge discount on equipment, but we're not going to see the huge overheated side of it. So it's going to help end users, get into some equipment, kind of like you guys, the smaller companies that don't want to go, pay 30-40% over MSRP, which I'm not saying that's what we charge, but there is some stuff out there. It's almost like, buying a new truck, where it's silly what some of the price of the stuff is. So, but yeah, so I think COVID for me was the biggest one, where it's just trying to figure out how to navigate that and how to, continue business and continue employing people.
It's scary as a small business owner, man. It's like, keep you up at night or not being able to sleep, trying to think about all the different facets. There's so many different things that go into business. And even last night, I have a couple of situations with, I'm needing to buy a new vehicle for one of our employees, one of our sales guys, and a couple other situations where it's like, there's so many different ways that we can approach each situation, and there's so many situations. It'll just keep your mind churning and spinning and spinning. And when it compounds on, hey, this decision, the results of this, whether it's good or bad, is going to affect 5 or 10 other families, like it gets scary, man. It gets definitely it'll grow some hair on your chin, that's for sure. That's one thing that I'm learning, that everything that I do, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, is going to affect other families. And a lot of the people that you employ, and also myself, are the breadwinners of their family. So they're the ones who are going home and bringing home the most money in the family for themselves. And it is not easy to look someone in the face and say, hey, I got to cut your hours, or hey, I have to let you go. Even, for example, we had a gentleman who was temporary. We brought him on as temporary. He knew it from the beginning, and this was just right after the hurricane, when we had this crazy surge of work that we just couldn't handle on our own. So we brought on some temporary guys. There's one guy in particular, his name's Jesse, and he did such a good job for us. Showed up every day on time. He was actually early, and he even rode his bike to the job sites, which I thought was kind of neat. And he was just so driven, and he had a good family at home. And I had to, let him go after, a month after the hurricane or so, because the position that I hired him for was, getting terminated. We just didn't have enough work to keep it going. He was okay, because he knew it was coming. I had prepped him for it. But I was so sad, saying, hey man, I'm sorry. I know this was temporary, but you've done a great job for us. Let us know if you need any references or anything like that. It's hard to look somebody in the eye and tell them, hey, I can't continue to give you your job, continue to support you. But in return, how you handled the situation in COVID, I've bet that created so much loyalty for the people that are working with you. It's probably incredible. Have you seen some of that loyalty fruit from how you handled that situation?
Yeah, and I think, there's always going to be, some turnover. There's always going to be there's wrong people, wrong seats. And I think for the last few years, we've had a lot of right people, right seats. And, I feel that there is loyalty there. There's a lot of these guys. I wouldn't say I always enjoy coming to work. Not everybody enjoys coming to work all the time, and neither do I. And right. I'd be lying to you if I said that. Right. But they get it. Then they get what they're doing, and everybody's been, for the most part, been there long enough to where they've seen some of the people come and go that maybe weren't going to fit, and that's not their fault. That's not anybody's fault. That's just how things are sometimes. A tremendous amount of the people that were employed then are still employed now. That's awesome. We have very little turnover. We've had some people come but then go since then. But for the most part, the people that were working then are working now.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned. There is more to come. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, the best place to rate or follow the show is at thelandscapecafe.com. Brought to you with support from Fort Myers Garden Service, maintaining and protecting business and residential landscapes. Visit fortmyersgardenservice.com or call 239-990-7494. The Landscape Cafe is a production of Pure Landscaping and the Niche Podcast Network. Learn more about Bailey, Katie, and the team by visiting purelandscaping.com.